So we have the second book behind Name of the Wind. This one is Wise Man's Fear. So we have Kavote still. He's got his nice little red hair, and he goes back to the university. But he has this arch enemy, right? And this arch enemy really hates him and thinks that he doesn't deserve his position. So he decides to start making him a pie. And this pie isn't any pie that we've ever seen or tasted before. This pie has malice behind it. So Kavote just takes it. And he starts smelling plums. And so when he smells these plums, he just has no filter on him. So he talks to girls in a weird way. He takes off his clothes. And so he goes back to the university and tries to figure out what questions he needs to answer to get a spot in the university. He answers some questions, and then the one guy's like really mad at him and asks why he burned his clothes. He's like, I would have burned you too. They aren't happy with that answer. But he's still in love with this girl, right? Devana or Deanna. But the girl starts hanging out with the bad guy. She gets dumped by him, and he steals her ring. So he's like, oh, I have an idea. He gets his little minions. He's like, hey, we're going to steal the ring. So they go at night, and they go into this guy's room using magic. I got to remember the bad guy's name. He goes inside. He finds the ring, burns the apartment down. And he breaks like his leg and his arm and his face. So the bad guys are like really mad again. So he starts burning his body with some magic. And so he can't sleep, he can't function. So he decides to make an amulet. So he goes in the library, he tries to figure out how to make the amulet. Finally figures out how to make the amulet. Bloop, ching. Makes the amulet. His skin's fine. Bad guy can't hurt him anymore. So everyone tells him, like, hey, you should just probably leave. This guy doesn't like you. So he's just like, fine. He leaves the university. He goes to this new town and meets this princely guy. And the prince is like, what up, Dow? And the guy's like, hey, I'm magic. Prince is so astounded by it. He's like, hey, look, I'm dying. So he's like, hey, go to my magician, my alchemist, and see what he's doing. See if he can get me my medicine. So while he's there, he notices that the alchemist is trying to kill him. So instead of believing him, he says, hey, prove it. So he steals his little money card. Not really. Gives it to him, fine. And he goes into town, and who should he find while he's walking around town? Oh, the one girl that he's in love with. Deanna or something. So they hang out. Yay. And as they're hanging out around town and they talk about different things, and she asks him, like, hey, what kind of flower am I? Do you want to hear my music? And so he's like, sure, I want to hear some music. So she goes in the back alley and plays him some music. And he doesn't really like the song. He kind of finds it offensive. So he says that you're trash. You're trash. So she leaves, and she's really sad about it. He's really sad about it. But he decides to go back to the prince. Prince is fine because they've been poisoning his birds. Yay! Oh, so then he's like, oh, I'm going to kick you out. It's time to go find some baddies. So then he gets with this new group of people. One is in love with the other one. Another one has taken the red. And many moons go by as they're traveling around until they find these footprints. They find out these footprints lead to a camp. These are the bad guys. And then as they're going in there, they realize that these bad guys need to be stopped. So Kavote calls down some lightning. He's like, hey, got an idea for this. I should be able to handle this. Calls it in. Right before the lightning strikes, one guy gets away. He notices that this guy is the guy who killed his family. In the first book, they end up finding the treasure. They then go back home. As they're going home, he notices a naked girl. So she's like, come on. And he's like, sure, it's a fairy. I can go with her. So then they start doing a forest walk. He finds out that she has a bed there. They start doing adult things. He hangs out there for many moons. And he's like, well, I gotta go. She's like, nah, brah. And he's like, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and call the wind. So he whispers the wind's name, which we never hear. And she's like, all right, fine, but you have to sing me some song when you get back here. So he leaves the magical forest. He realizes that this guy's a really cool fighter. And he's like, hey, can I come home with you? And the dude's like, yeah, they'll probably kill me, but sure. So he follows him home. And they're like, hey, we're probably going to kill you, but we'll train this other dude. So they start training this other dude, Cavote. He's not a good fighter, even to the youngest people, right? Many moons go by. And he starts fighting, and then he starts learning all these different things, like the name of his sword's masters before him. He has to go into this magical forest thing and get out something during these leaves that are hitting him. He starts to bring his master nothing, and they're like, yay, you did such a good job, take the red. So he gets really excited, he starts leaving, he meets these other people, and they have these girls kidnapped. So he's like, well, I can't let this go on. So he does some mean things to them and saves the girl. Both girls. He takes the girls back home. Yay, they're so happy. So he leaves. As he goes back to university. He hangs out with his friends and parties and drinks, tells them the stories, and he tells everyone no one has partied harder since.